What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. So, in a major blow to Joe Biden, House Speaker Johnson won't put Senate aid bill on the floor. And I do have to say, bravo. This guy needs to grow a spine, man. This is what I don't get. These people like Kevin McCarthy and Mike Johnson, they have every opportunity to be the best House Speaker this country has ever seen. If all they did was just listen to the people, man, that is it. These people could go down in history as some of the best House Speakers ever, like a Newt Gingrich. Seriously. But they talk to their advisors, they get bad advice from their staff. I don't know what they do. But this is where Mike Johnson needs to hold the line. There is no way that the American people can flip another $95 billion bill to secure the borders of other countries while their border is in freaking chaos. This is insane. It's just insane. I'm sorry. I haven't met one person that said it's a good idea. Not one. And like I said in the last segment, I talk to a lot of people, man. I haven't met one person that agreed that sending billions of dollars to Ukraine is a good idea. Israel, now that's a different story. And we could discuss why. Israel is the roots of our country. It is the roots of Christianity. In some ways, you can say it is the Israel and the United States are one and the same. And not only that, but it is the historical artifact of Christianity. If these people were to take over Israel, what they do is they destroy all the historical value, all the statues and monuments. If they were to have Israel right now, if Hamas, if the Palestinians were to defeat Israel and take over Israel, Christianity and the history that we have there, all of it would be gone. Every historical context, every historical monument, everything. Because that is part of their mission. Their mission is to eradicate Christianity. And so I see funding Israel. I really do. That is a piece of us, man. Jesus didn't walk the lands of the United States. These biblical events that took place, they took place in Israel, not in the United States. And I'm sorry, but I just don't think risking 3,000 years of biblical history is worth it. I don't. So I could see funding, but, I'm not. The crazy thing is Israel isn't even asking for aid. They're asking for missiles, okay, for their missile defense system, all right. They're not asking for soldiers. They're doing it themselves. What are they asking for? What did they, in this bill, they're getting like $18 billion. Ukraine, we've already sent them $116 billion. That is like 6 times their entire GDP. And we're going to send them another $60 billion? So you're talking about almost $200 billion in 2.5 years? To Ukraine? No, man. Not only that, but the stories we're getting out of Ukraine, 500,000 people dead. I mean, the carnage that's going on over there. You have protests from parents not wanting to send their children into the meat grinder in a situation that most everybody can see is not going to end in Ukraine's favor. So why is it the American people that are on the line for funding this disaster happening in Ukraine? Listen, I get it. Like, if we were in a position to send it, like if we had Donald Trump in office, you had prosperity breaking out all across the United States, if it was peacetime and Ukraine was like, hey, Russia's invading us, we need your help, like, there's circumstances I could see the American taxpayer and say, yeah, not having any problem sending $95 billion to Ukraine or $200 billion to Ukraine. But now, you have people out there, they're not sinking, they're drowning. Inflation is killing people. Go buy a carton of eggs. You have a southern border that's completely, forget about it. The immigration crisis this Biden administration has created in this country, forget about it. If the situation in America was different than it is now, then I don't see people having a problem sending aid to Ukraine. We haven't had problems with sending aid to all these countries any other time. We've been supporting all these wars and conflicts and these proxy wars and all this crap that people like Victoria Nuland and Jake Sullivan get us involved in. We've been doing it for decades. But now is the time when it stops. The American people are done. They are done. And these Republicans, these crooked Republicans, these disgusting backstabbers, and the Democrats are trying to force it down our throats anyways, when the American people clearly do not want it to happen. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called authoritarianism. That is a tyranny. When you have a government that does not listen to its people and just passes bills, spends money, spends taxpayer dollars on stuff that people do not agree with, you got a problem. And that's exactly what we're saying. So this is the time that Mike Johnson needs to grow a spine. So House Speaker Mike Johnson on Tuesday told Punchbowl News, Jake Sherman, that he will not put the Senate aid bill on the House floor. Last week, Republican senators voted against advancing a compromised border security bill that would have allocated more money to foreign countries while largely ignoring the U.S. border. The Senate's $118.28 billion national security supplemental package allocated $60 billion in military aid to Ukraine. That was that bipartisan bill. You guys remember that, right? The bipartisan bill where the Republican rhinos and radical Democrats went behind closed doors and created this bill, this monstrosity, this $118 billion monstrosity, and then brought it out at the last minute and wanted people to vote for it. It's like, what? These people, man, they're so bad. They're so awful. And come election time, every single one of them need to be voted out. This is how the American people get their country back. I don't care. I don't care anymore. I don't care if a Democrat wins. I don't. And I'll tell you why. Because the next time when a Republican actually wins, then they'll know that their constituents aren't messing around. You will not be a Republican and you will not get our vote if you're just going to stab us in the back later. This is the problem with backstabbing rhinos. I would rather have a Democrat because at least we know where they're coming from. Republicans are worse because they stab you in the back when you least expect it. This is the problem. So come election time, people need to actively campaign against these people that are trying to push this monstrosity onto the taxpayer. Period. That's what I say. If that means a Democrat wins, okay. Because at least next time, if there is a next time, at least next time, then a Republican that is in there will know that the people are serious. I mean, you can't, and they know that. They know people are going to vote for them because they have an R in front of their name. This is why I can't stand the two-party system. I wish they didn't have R's. I wish they didn't have D's. I wish it was just their policy positions on the ballot. That's what I wish they would do. Because it's like, man, I mean, the tribal politics, the two-party system is a disaster. It is broken. Because you get these Republicans, oh, they'll vote for me because I have an R in front of my name. And then once I get in there, I'll just do whatever I want. I'll vote for whatever Democrats want me to, just so long as I get invited to the parties and Washington Post writes good news pieces about me. Like, that's what they do. And they totally just stab their constituents in the back. That's what Republicans in the Senate did with the bill. That's what they did again with this foreign aid package. So only $20.23 billion was allocated to secure the U.S. border amid an unprecedented invasion of military-age males from Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, and China. And so this is why I called it the foreign aid package, not the bipartisan border bill. This was a Ukraine bill. $20 billion from a $118 billion bill went to the border. And not only that, but it didn't even build a wall. It didn't stop the crisis. It just processed all the immigrants faster. It processed all the illegals faster. That's all. It increased the processing. That's it. These people think the American people are so dumb. It's so offensive. And people should be offended by what these frauds are doing. So after the bill failed to pass the Senate last week, Schumer rolled out another supplemental aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. The Senate early Tuesday passed Schumer's supplemental aid package and allocated $95 billion to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. 22 Republicans voted in favor, of giving foreign countries money while ignoring the crisis at the U.S. border. The $95 billion package will now head to the House of Representatives. However, Speaker Johnson will not bring the aid package to the floor for a vote. Quote, I certainly don't right now. We're dealing with the appropriations process. We have immediate deadlines upon us, and that's where the attention of the House is in this moment, Speaker Johnson told Jake Sherman. Speaker Johnson Monday evening said that the $95 billion aid bill, quote, America deserves better than the Senate's status quo. Joe Biden on Tuesday showed up 1 hour late to deliver remarks on the Senate's passage of a supplemental package. Biden angrily warned Republicans in Congress and said that those who oppose funding for Ukraine would be held accountable. And here is Joe Biden saying just that right here. Check this out.
Control of Ukraine. He won't limit himself just to Ukraine. And the cost for America and our allies and partners are going to rise. For Republicans in Congress who think they can oppose funding for Ukraine and not be held accountable, history is watching. History is watching. History is watching. Failure to support Ukraine at this critical moment will never be forgotten. I want to be clear about something because I know it's important to the American people.
But that's the thing, folks. It's not important to the American people. What's important to the American people is America. I mean, is it really that difficult to understand? And it seems like these people have forgotten history all too quick. How about the weapons of mass destruction that they lied to us about? And we spent how much money? How many lives were given to that lie that the government lied to us about? The weapons of mass destruction? Oh, yeah. And then years later, it turns out that it was just one big fat lie, and we spent trillions of dollars. I don't know how many soldiers lost. A war that didn't need to happen, but happened because of the lies from Congress. No, ladies and gentlemen, these people aren't learning from history. We are. These people want the status quo. They just want the business as usual. We'll pass all these taxpayer-funded bills to Ukraine, to our weapons manufacturers, to Raytheon, to General Dynamics, to Boeing, to Lockheed Martin, and then guess what? Then all of our big donors and special interests are fat and happy while diving in to a pile of cash and coming out with fistfuls, feeding on the carcass of this country. And where are the American people? Spending $7 for a dozen eggs, $4 for a gallon of gas. Inflation is crushing people, crushing us. And these people want to send $95 billion to another country? When's the last time you've seen a new bridge get built around your neighborhood? How about a new skyscraper in your cities? How about some fine architecture? When's the last time we've seen beautiful buildings? Our country, our civilization, and our society is on the verge of collapse. It is in a downward spiral. And these people are trying to send hundreds of billions of dollars to fix another country. And you know what? It's not just that. Here's the problem. I can understand funding munitions, guns, missiles, rockets, bombs, tanks, all that stuff. Typical stuff you need to fight in a war. But when I see the pensions of public officials being filled with American taxpayer money, I got a problem with that. When I see Ukrainian public officials' 401ks being subsidized by American taxpayers, I got a problem with that. When I see our money being spent on keeping high-end clothes stores open over there in Ukraine so that the people, have a Lululemon to shop at, if there's such a thing over there, then I got a problem with that. Like, I don't have a problem with guns and bullets. Beans and bullets, I don't have a problem with that. It's holding up and propping up an entire country for a war that we don't even need to be involved in. For a war that people like the Angel of Death, Victoria Nuland, and Jake Sullivan most likely created. These people create these conflicts. They're the ones creating these proxy wars. And the worst part about it, it's their foreign policy. It's their ideas. It's always the American people that have to make the biggest sacrifice. It's unfortunate, man. And we've said this amongst one another. Us fellow Americans have been saying this for years. It's like these people create all the problems, right? Don't they create all the problems? And then we're the ones that have to pay the price? So in the nuclear holocaust, if there were to be a World War III that's fought with nukes, all these people, all these congressmen that voted for this bill, all these people, these public officials, the senators, congressmen, they all get to go down in their their luxurious bunkers. And then we all get to die, essentially, for problems that they created. And when I say they created, they created. And if they don't create the problems, they certainly don't fix the problems. Every single thing they do is wrong. And this is why we have to get these people out of there. Our government needs to be filled with regular Americans. We have to get these bastards out of there. Our system is broken because of these people. Spending 20, 30, 40, 50 years in politics. They're corrupt. It's as simple as that. They're supposed to go in, contribute what they can, and then leave. Not make side deals with Raytheon and Boeing, not stay in for 50 years and play the stock market because you know which bills are coming down the tubes. Like, that was never part of the deal. These people just get so used to the luxurious life of being a senator and a congressman, they don't want to leave. They don't even work, folks. What do they work, like 6 months out of the year? They're getting ready to take another 2-week break for President's Day. 2 weeks. Do you get 2 weeks off? I don't. I certainly don't. And so I want to, and this is exactly why. This is what's concerning to me. So here's an article from Hat Tip to Colin Linebarger. Report: Joe Biden rejected proposal from Vladimir Putin to halt the war in Ukraine. This just came out. So Joe Biden may have missed an opportunity to potentially end the horrific conflict between Ukraine and Russia by outright dismissing one of the combatants' peace proposals. If true, this would mark yet another catastrophic foreign policy failure. Reuters reported Tuesday that Russian President Vladimir Putin signaled to Washington in 2023, in public and privately, through intermediaries, that he was ready to open to a ceasefire in Ukraine. Putin's proposal was to freeze the war along current lines, which includes territory gained by Russia. Sources told Reuters that this approach from Putin offered what some Kremlin figures saw as the best hope for some form of peace. But Biden and his regime rejected the proposal without countering, as one Russian source lamented. Another Russian source explained that the regime insisted on involving Ukraine in any discussion regarding a possible ceasefire. This immovable position caused the talks to collapse completely. Quote, everything fell apart with the Americans, he said. And this is from Reuters. Intermediaries met in Turkey in late 2023, according to 3 Russian sources. A fourth diplomatic source said that there had been Russia/U.S. unofficial contacts through intermediaries at Russia's initiative, but they appeared to have come to nothing. According to 3 Russian sources, Putin's signal was relayed to Washington, where top U.S. officials, including White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Central Intelligence Agency Director Bill Burns, and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, met. The idea was that Sullivan would speak to Putin's foreign policy advisor, Yuri Yushakov, and set out the next steps, one of the Russian sources said. But when the call came in January, Sullivan told Yushakov that Washington was willing to talk about other aspects of the relationship, but would not speak about a ceasefire without Ukraine, said one of the Russian sources. Russian sources expressed frustration with the regime's stubborn stance not to encourage Ukraine to engage in talks, given that the United States is extensively funding the war. Putin reportedly did not appear surprised by the reaction and is vowing to continue fighting. The U.S. reportedly rejected peace between Russia and Ukraine in 2022. The Gateway pundit previously reported that Putin told former Fox News host Tucker Carlson in an interview last week that Russia is ready for dialogue regarding the war. Combining Putin's statements with this Reuters report challenges the conventional wisdom regarding who desires peace more. Boom. Not us. Our officials don't want peace, folks. These people want war. That's the only explanation you can come up with. When you have Donald Trump in office for 4 years with no new wars, none of this crap was happening under Donald Trump. And he just so happens to be the first outsider elected the president since George Washington. And then the moment Joe Biden and the official establishment gets back into control, we have all these new wars and conflicts. Not only are there new wars, but it seems like they're making up for lost time. They're starting conflict after conflict, almost like the whole world is going into conflict. That's not a coincidence, folks. The reason why there was no new wars under the Trump administration was because Trump did not want war. It's as simple as that. There was peace and prosperity breaking out all across the world with the Abraham Accords. You had some of the biggest peace talks ever. In fact, I think Donald Trump is being nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, and I'm going to look into that story. We'll talk about it next segment. The reason why there was peace and prosperity breaking out all across the world is because Donald Trump wanted it. The reason why there's war and conflicts breaking out all over the world is because Joe Biden wants it. Jake Sullivan wants it. Victoria Nuland wants it. It's because these people don't want peace. Why? Because peace doesn't bring in money. It reminds me so much of that movie Lord of War with Nicolas Cage. Where it's like, he's like, I don't care who fires the guns just so long as they're firing. Like, it is, that entire movie was about war. Hence the name Lord of War. He was a gun runner. And so his business was war. Because you can't sell guns if there is no war. And so it is the same thing we're watching now. The American taxpayer is essentially paying the light bills for Raytheon, Boeing, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, all the weapons defense contractors, all the mercenary groups. We are paying all these people with the taxpayers. This $95 billion, some of it will go to Ukraine. This is the problem. We don't even know where it's going. For all we know, it's a giant money laundering scheme, is what it is. They take the American taxpayers' hard-earned money, and they divvy it up between all their corrupt friends, all the oligarchs in Ukraine, and all the weapons contractors here in the United States. They all get fat and happy, feeding on the carcass of this country, while the American taxpayer drowns in debt, inflation, in misery. And these people, the Republicans, can't see this. That's why I say, man, it's like we need better people in there. The problem is regular American patriots aren't running for Congress. They're not running for Senate because it's almost an impossible task for an average person to run for politics. You need millions of dollars. You're most likely going to get, you're personally going to get destroyed. And if Democrats had their way, you'd end up in prison. We are in such a bad path in this country. And I'm sorry, but Donald Trump, you may not like him. You may not like the way he talks. You may not like the way he looks. Orange man bad. That's fine. But nobody can deny that the guy was a good president. Period. Sometimes you need somebody burly and harsh to be a leader. I am almost 100% certain we would not be in any of this stuff if Donald Trump was still in office. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. Because if Donald Trump would have won in 2020, then nobody would have seen all the corruption from this government. All the corruption in our Justice Department, all the corruption and abuse of power in our intel agencies. If Trump won, we wouldn't have seen any of that. Because he lost, we pulled the curtain back on all this. But at the same time, voting for Joe Biden was a grave mistake. The level of death and destruction that has happened under this guy's watch is tremendous. Generational damage. And we will be feeling the ripple effects from the Biden administration for generations to come. There's no doubt about it. And what worries me the most is that all this money we're spending to blow up Ukraine, to kill more people, to get more soldiers killed, we're now, after whichever side wins, most likely Russia, because I'm sorry, folks, Ukraine is just not going to win a war against Russia. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. The problem is after the war effort is over, the United States is going to be on the hook for rebuilding efforts of Ukraine. More notably, the American taxpayer. So the American taxpayer, essentially the American taxpayer is going to fund the destruction of Ukraine, and then we're also going to fund the rebuilding of Ukraine. This is what the American people are so sick and tired of. They've seen it over and over and over again. And so when Joe Biden gets behind that podium and he threatens the American people by saying, if we don't fund a bill, $95 billion to Ukraine, that we are supporting Putin, these people aren't learning from history. Because the last I checked, the weapons of mass destruction was a giant fat lie. Cost us trillions of dollars, and I don't know how many lives lost. We're not falling for that crap again. And so, Senator Rand Paul, once again, never ceases to impress me, man. He filibustered the bill. He tried his best to stop it coming out of the Senate. He's a man of principle. I really like Rand Paul. I do. I really like him. I don't see him as presidential material, but I do certainly see him as a key. I see him as Senate Majority Leader, for sure. Absolutely. I couldn't think of somebody better than somebody like Rand Paul as Senate Majority Leader. But Mitch McConnell, this guy's got to go. My folks in Kentucky, you got to get rid of Mitch McConnell. And there's actually talks about them removing Mitch McConnell and replacing him. He's just as bad as Biden. This guy can't talk either. He has like mini strokes behind the podium when he's talking. Get rid of these people. It's so crazy that the reddest states in this country have some of the most backstabbing senators and congressmen this country has to offer. Like, how is that possible? It's because, just like I explained, it's almost impossible for regular American patriots to run in politics because they'll either get destroyed, which obviously nobody wants to volunteer their own self-destruction. Sometimes they don't want their personal life being dug into, which is most likely going to happen. And in some cases, like I said, if Democrats had their way, they'd be putting people in prison. People are scared to run for politics. Look at what Democrats are doing to their political opponents. So this is the problem. And as far as impeaching Joe Biden, as far as Joe Biden running for president, I just don't see it, folks. I don't. I really don't. You got a lot of people out there putting out op-eds talking about how Joe Biden's running and that, we're in a sticky spot because, well, we're not, but Democrats are, because they have all this stuff that just dropped with Joe Biden. Essentially, all his corruption, all his dirty laundry was just aired out on national TV. His memory loss. This guy, Robert Hur, put him in a impossible position because this is a fact. Joe Biden has committed multiple felonies, period. That is a fact. There's no hiding it. There's no denying it. He committed multiple felonies, but he's not being charged because he's too old and suffers from memory loss. That's it. There's no other way around this situation. And so in a way, I think Robert Hur was a genius putting out that indictment. Now, I'm not going to hold him up on some pedestal, but he really, what an indictment. That indictment came out, that special counsel report, and it left Democrats with no options. Either this guy's a criminal and should have been charged, or he wasn't charged because he is too old and suffers from memory loss and therefore shouldn't be running a country as president. And so you could see how that's an impossible situation to try and spin. And they're trying, trust me, they are trying. I see it all over Twitter. They're trying to spin the crap out of it. Oh, Joe Biden may have done this, he may have done that, but he's 100 times better than Donald Trump. Donald Trump lies. I'm like, dude, Joe Biden stole classified documents, willfully retained them, and then lied about it. He has committed multiple felonies on multiple occasions, and the only reason he is not being charged like he should be, like anybody else would be, and certainly Donald Trump, is because he's too old and suffers from memory loss. That is it. That's the only thing you could say about the report. And so they had to go with the Joe Biden is too old, and so now they're trying to rationalize Joe Biden's age. It's not his age, folks. It's his cognitive ability. It's not his age at all. I know 91-year-olds. I know a 100-year-old man that still walks around. He still talks like a normal person. It's not age. It's his cognitive impairment. He has Alzheimer's. He has dementia, folks. We did a show like, we did a show like 5-6 months ago. The 10 stages of dementia. Or the 10 signs of dementia. And Joe Biden meets all 10 signs. It's crazy. You should go back and listen to it. I don't know what episode it is. But I actually researched all the signs of dementia, and Joe Biden reaches every single one of them. We go through it one by one by one. I give you the bullet point for the sign for a dementia, for one of the signs of dementia, and then we go over what Joe Biden did to meet that criteria. And it's a good episode. It actually got a lot of hits. A lot of people liked that episode. One of my better performing episodes, actually. And so it's clear and obvious that Joe Biden is screwed. I just don't see how this guy's going to run for president. But Democrats are running out of time because come March, because they were so dedicated to getting Joe Biden across the finish line, they started force-feeding delegates to him. And come March, a big chunk of the delegates are already going to be in Joe Biden's camp. And then come Super Tuesday, there's not going to be any delegates left. So if Michelle Obama were to get in, it's almost impossible for her to do anything because all the delegates were given to Joe Biden, because these people are the threats to democracy. They hate democracy. They want to crown Joe Biden as the nominee and because they have this weird notion that Joe Biden's the only person that can beat Donald Trump. Joe Biden only won that election by 42,000 votes in 3 or 4 different states. Why they had this notion that Joe Biden's the only person to beat Donald Trump is beyond me. But now with this report, with the disaster, with all the destruction that Joe Biden is responsible for, all the chaos that's happened on Joe Biden's watch, I just don't see how this guy is going to run for president. I really don't. But I don't know. I really don't know. They really like this guy, Dean. This guy seems to be coming out of nowhere, and I still can't get over the fact that they essentially rigged the primaries against RFK Jr., just like they did Bernie Sanders. Democrats keep rigging their primaries and then claiming that Republicans are the threats to democracy. It's really wild and bizarre. A lot of Democrats liked RFK Jr. Listen, majority of Democrats do not want Joe Biden running again. They say he's too old. But yet somehow they rigged the primaries in Joe Biden's favor? That's not democracy. That is something much different. I don't know what that is, but it sure in the hell isn't democracy. Here's an article from Politico. This actually just came out 2 days ago. Or this actually came out yesterday. It's from Stephen Shepard. He's Politico's senior campaign and elections editor and chief polling analyst. He said, so far, Democrats have vigorously avoided any discussion of a Plan B for their presidential nominee. But special counsel Robert Hur's report may have forced their hand. Fairly or not, Hur's stinging characterization of President Joe Biden as a, quote, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory and diminished faculties has thrust the president's age and mental fitness into the debate. Coupled with the widespread perception that Biden is too old for another term and the fact that he frequently trails former President Trump in swing state polling matchups, has raised serious questions about whether Biden is positioned to lead the party in November and whether Democrats need a contingency plan. Because of procedural and political hurdles, it would not be easy to simply swap him out. The likeliest outcome is that Biden stays on the ticket, but it is also possible to envision different scenarios where the party does indeed nominate someone other than Biden at its August convention or even picks in an alternative afterward to compete in a historic general election. Here's how it would work. So Biden's choices. The truth is that a backup strategy can only be deployed if Biden voluntarily steps aside or is physically unable to stand for nomination. At the moment, despite the anxiety within the party, there's no dispute. Biden is on a glide path to the Democratic nomination. His long shot rival, Representative Dean Phillips, has warned for months about the risks of nominating Biden, yet has failed to gain traction. The Minnesota Democrat has largely been ostracized from the party for even broaching the sensitive subject. This is the problem with groupthink. This is the problem with the Democrat Party, is they all think alike. It's like They all go with the narrative. They just go with the flow. Whatever one says, they do. This is the problem with the Democrat Party. And I'm not saying Republicans don't have problems, but there's one thing you can't say about the Republicans. The Republican Party eat each other alive. All right, we got Trump haters, we got Trump lovers, we got people that want Nikki Haley. There's no such thing as groupthink in the Republican Party. All right, so I mean, say what you want, but Republicans actually practice democracy. So unlike Democrats, go figure, the Democrat Party actually hates democracy. Actually destroying democracy. Very rich in irony there. All right, back to the article. A late entering white knight candidate isn't an option at this point. Even though only about 3% of the total delegates have been awarded so far, that's because by the end of this month, filing deadlines for primary ballot access will have passed in all but 6 states and the District of Columbia. Even if a candidate managed to get on the ballots in all those states, and even if they won every single delegate available in them, it still wouldn't make much of a dent against Biden's delegate haul. Biden will likely amass more delegates on March 5th, Super Tuesday, in the state of California than from those 6 states and D.C. combined. Short of incapacitation or a highly unlikely convention floor revolt from delegates already pledged to Biden and loyal to the president, there is only one practical plan B, and that's Biden himself agreeing to hand over the baton. He is a proud man whose ego has been shaped by the experience of winning election to the Senate in his 20s and then being denied the presidency several times before finally securing it. I would say with lots and lots of shenanigans across 3 or 4 different swing states. That I just added that. Convincing him he's in an increasingly untenable position and needs to stand down won't come easy. But there is a path that enables him to leave with dignity and on his terms. It begins with letting the Democratic primary campaign run its course. Ending June 4th, the date the last group of states holds its primaries, Biden would finish as the undisputed victor with far more than the 1,968 pledged delegate votes necessary to claim the nomination. And then Biden would announce he would not accept the nomination and release his delegates to back a different nominee. He could insist he's still fit to serve out another term, but that he accepts the public's concerns with the president, who would be 86 at the end of a second term. He could remind voters that he has always said he was a bridge to a future generation of Democratic leaders. The economy is on track, he could note, and argue that he defeated Trump once and protected the American democracy. He met his duty. This is the problem with Politico. The lack of self-awareness in the Democrat Party with these people is astounding. The fact that they think that Joe Biden is actually the protector of democracy, as we're watching them destroy democracy right now by trying to lock up and imprison Joe Biden's political rival, is incredible to me. It is so shocking how they can't see this. Like I said, the lack of self-awareness is so just astronomical, and they can't see it. They can't see how they are actually the threats to democracy, and it's really incredible, man. At that point, the scramble would begin among potential successors. Not long after Biden's announcement, a spate of private polls testing various candidates in the general election would suddenly be floated to establish different figures. Trump slaying credentials. Between June 4th and August 19th, when the party's convention begins in Chicago, senior Democrats would jockey for position to replace Biden in the kind of battle not seen in decades in American politics. Now pay attention to this. Chicago, that's Michelle Obama's territory. The problem she has in Chicago is she really screwed over the Chicago residents, and she's going to have some big issues campaigning in Chicago. I'll just say that. I have so much mixed stories from Michelle Obama running. You have Republicans, and myself included, swearing up and down Michelle Obama's going to run. Then you have Democrats and other Republicans saying that Joe Biden's going to stay in because he's super stubborn. And just like I told my lawyer friend that I speak with, Republicans need to just pray that Joe Biden is as stubborn as they say, and he stays in, because we cannot ask for a better candidate. And this is why I say they have to know they got to get rid of Joe Biden. They know. They're not dumb. Democrats, they're evil, cunning, but they are not dumb when it comes to elections, man. They know Joe Biden is in an untenable situation. Every single Democrat you talk to is weary about pulling that lever for Joe Biden. Some Democrats come straight out and just say, I will not vote for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. Like that guy, that Trump-hating guy, Michael Rappaport. He came out on Bet David's podcast and said straight up, I will not vote for Joe Biden. And he rails on Donald Trump. And he's saying, I may have to pull that lever for Donald Trump. It's going to be hard, but at least voting for Donald Trump is normal. I was like, what? Yeah. Voting for Donald Trump is actually normal. I posted this video on my social media. It went berserk because people feel the same. It's like, okay, Donald Trump may be bad, but he wasn't this bad. Like Donald Trump, we were not going through this stuff during Donald Trump. And if you could manage just to ignore what he looks like, honestly, all people would have to do is just turn off their TV. Turn off CNN, turn off MSNBC, turn off all the Trump-hating mainstream media outlets, the propaganda outlets. They would be fine. And then they could just, they can just ride this wave out and enjoy the ride with peace and prosperity breaking out all around them. And they wouldn't even have to look at Donald Trump. Like I said, they can just enjoy the ride. But, listen, they got some issues here and they don't have long to figure this out. And so you have till March, really. So you got a couple months, unless Joe Biden voluntarily relieves his delegates to another nominee. So it could be Michelle Obama. It could be this guy, Dean Phillips. It could be RFK Jr., although I think he's announced he's running in the Liberal Party now, or the Independent. He's running as an independent now. He kind of just fell off the map once they screwed him out of the Democratic primary. So you listen, they don't have a lot of time. All the sources that I've read, Joe Biden is extremely, extremely conceited and selfish and arrogant. And he's not going to let go. I mean, he is hanging by his fingertips to this nomination. And it's almost like he's got something to prove. He does not like Barack Obama. That is one thing you'll start to learn once you get into the conversations and you get into the news pieces about the Obama-Biden administration. They did not really get along with one another. Biden essentially feels like he's never been given the credit he's owed for being Joe Biden, I guess. This guy is extremely arrogant, folks. He's one of the best liars that Washington, D.C. has ever seen. Look how far this idiot has gotten in our politics. Joe Biden's always been dumb. Before his dementia, he's always been dumb. Like when he would talk, super arrogant, super selfish. I mean, just listen to the conversations he would have about I don't want my kids going to a jungle, talking about race segregation and busing. I mean, the guy is a staunch racist, supported the segregationists back in his Senate days. I mean, just go back in the history of this guy. What he did to Clarence Thomas during the nomination process, I mean, was disgusting. And I'm going to post that on my social media. I actually screen grabbed a video of what Joe Biden said and what he did to Clarence Thomas. And I actually have an article about what Joe Biden did to the first Black woman Supreme Court justice. But she was actually nominated by Bush. And so Joe Biden absolutely destroyed her in such a racist fashion. And then here it is that he holds himself up on this pedestal because he was the first to nominate a Black woman Supreme Court justice. Even though just a decade or two before her, he was caught on video destroying a Black woman conservative justice. But he was destroying her not because she was a woman and she was Black, although he may have, because he was a racist and obviously a feminizer, but is because she was a conservative. And I actually want to get into that article. But what concerns me is that Republicans, conservatives, and more notably the Trump campaign is not focusing on Michelle Obama. The Obamas are awful. And this is why I always want to point to that the pain and suffrage that the American people are going through is not a Joe Biden problem. This is a Democrat Party problem. Joe Biden, all he did was implement Democrats' ideology. That is it. Open borders, sanctuary states, like all the Democrats' bad ideas. Joe Biden was just there to sign them through, to turn them into executive orders. That's it. So this is actually a Democrat Party problem. The way that their ideology is, the president is interchangeable to their ideology, just so long as that president supports their ideology, supports their philosophy, this woke philosophy that we've watched just spread throughout our country like a cancer. Joe Biden, it doesn't have to be, look at Joe Biden, for instance. You got a guy that can't talk, can't speak, can't find his way off a stage, but one thing he is good at is signing executive orders, and he'll sign whatever they put under his schnoz. It is like the high schoolers have taken over the house and are having massive parties, drinking all the old guys' beer, making fun of him behind his back, but at least they're partying and having fun. That's essentially what's happening in our White House right now. And so the presidency is interchangeable to Democrats. It could be Joe Biden, it could be Michelle Obama, it could be Barack Obama. Nobody can tell me one thing Barack Obama did that was actually good. Like, you look back on the history of Barack Obama, he was not that good of a president. His list of accomplishments is very thin. It's a very short list. But Barack Obama had a lot of impact on the process of our politics. He did a lot of damage to this country, folks. Honestly, we've only started seeing the damage within the last 5 years. That's how effective Barack Obama was implementing long-lasting policies and bureaucratical BS that would have an effect and change this country down the long road. So Barack Obama he wasn't that good of a president. Michelle Obama is not going to be a good president. Why? Because it's the Democrat Party's ideology that is making this country so bad. The Democrat Party has no good ideas anymore. They don't want secure borders. They don't believe in democracy. That's obvious. They want to imprison all their political opponents. The Democrat Party is literally turned into the party for the rich ruling class elite. The American working class, the middle class, is not even part of the Democrat Party anymore. That's actually the Republican Party now. The Republican Party is the party of the working man. The Democrat Party is the party for the rich ruling class elite and the welfare state. And the reason why they want the welfare state bigger and bigger and bigger is so that those are more voters that they can rely on. Nobody likes voting against free stuff. You get as many people on the government dole, welfare, food stamps, WIC, whatever it is. You give people money every month. You get them reliant on that money. And then you tell them, listen, if you vote for the other side, they're going to take that money from you. And so they create the boogeyman. And then so they have a reliant voting base that will vote for them no matter what, because if they don't vote for Democrat, then they lose their money. This is like the Democrats' game plan for a long time. Now with the open borders, this is accomplishing several different things. Changing the voting demographics, the replacement theory, so on and so forth. And so, look, it's not a Joe Biden issue. It's a Democrat Party issue. And I just wish the Donald Trump campaign and conservatives as a whole would start focusing on the Obamas. Barack Obama is not getting out of this unscathed. There's no way. All this corruption, all this stuff happened under Barack Obama's watch. Why is he not being held accountable like Joe Biden? How many classified documents does Barack Obama have? Why does he seemingly get out of all this? He's not subpoenaed. He's not asked any questions. I say the House needs to subpoena Barack Obama. As they're impeaching Joe Biden, I say they need to subpoena Barack Obama. Get his ass in there and put him through the ringer. Why does he get away with all this stuff? How does he manage to go unscathed? The media doesn't talk about him. Republicans and conservatives don't talk about him. How is it possible? And we certainly will hear now, because I think they're going to run Michelle Obama. We're going to start talking about the Obamas too. I want to go back to Michelle Obama's past, how awful she was to the Chicago residents. I want to go back to just who she is as a person. She is a Marxist Democrat, folks. She is obviously a woke, racist person. Her ideology aligns perfectly with radical Marxist Democrats. Absolutely perfect. So it would be nothing but a fourth term of Barack Obama. I don't even consider Joe Biden a term. This is a third term of Barack Obama, and a Michelle Obama would be a fourth term of Barack Obama. This is why things are so bad. We're just now starting to feel the effects of Barack Obama's 8 years as president, because Joe Biden carried the baton for a third term of Barack Obama, and any Democrat that gets in after Joe Biden would be a fourth term of Barack Obama. He's one of the only presidents, if not the only president, to never leave Washington, D.C. after leaving the presidency, after leaving the White House. He got a home in Washington, D.C. He lives there. That's his permanent residence. One of the only presidents to ever do that. You mean to tell me he's not still involved in politics? He just, rode off into the sunset and just washed his hands with Washington, D.C.? Hail to the no. This guy's involved in everything, and everybody knows it. And Michelle Obama would be nothing but a Barack Obama fourth term. That's it. So, anyways, I wanted to, hopefully Mike Johnson stands firm on this disastrous monstrosity of a foreign aid package that is, yes, inflationary spending money we don't have. And I just wish that these Republicans that keep voting for this disgusting stuff would just resign, just leave the office. I'm serious, man. I think the Republican constituent, the conservatives as a whole, they're just so tired of getting stabbed in the back by these rhinos. This is not your party anymore, rhinos. You hear me, Hugh Hewitt? Yeah, I'm talking to you. Oh, yeah. You are a rhino. You are not getting this party back. You and your little rhino buddies, you're not getting this party back. You're not going back to the Bush days. It's not going to happen. You people are almost directly complicit into the downfall of this country. And you claim you are the governing body, the rational, responsible Republicans. You are destructive, and you are just as dangerous as Democrats. Because in all reality, you are Democrats. And so my message to the rhinos is, this is our party now, and you're not getting it back. So do what you got to do, but please, please, stop stabbing us in the back. If you're not going to be part of the solution, then get the hell out of the way. Either resign from your position and let some American patriots, America First patriots, red-blooded Americans take your position and actually help this country. Help the American people. You guys you're worthless, you're feckless, and your governing ideologies, your governing policies, they suck. And they've led to the $33 trillion in debt that we're in now. And now the responsible Americans, the people that are going to bring normalcy back into our politics, the red-blooded Americans, the responsible ones, are going to have to fix the mess you and your rhino Republican Party has created. And so just get the hell out of the way. All right, Hugh Hewitt, make sure you tell all your rhino buddies. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune into the next segment tomorrow around the same time. There's no shortage of news to get into. Hopefully, by the time you listen to this, Alejandro Mayorkas will be impeached, and we can show the Washington deep state and Democrats and the rhino Republicans that if you want to open our southern borders and try and screw over the American people and destroy this country, you're going to pay the political price. And that's why impeachment should happen. So hopefully by the time you listen to this, Mayorkas will be impeached, and then we can start working on Joe Biden's impeachment. Send the message. People that want to destroy this country will be held responsible by the people. So, we'll see. But yes, if you want to get a hold of me, Stephen Torriello Show at gmail.com. That's Stephen with the V, Tauriello. Please make sure you follow the show, follow the podcast on all podcast platforms. I would really appreciate it if you left a message, leave a 5-star review, leave a comment, let me know what you think about the show. Let me know what you think about the Michelle Obama thing. I'm really curious to see what my listeners think of Michelle Obama running. I did a poll about 2 months ago, and it's about split 50-50. I'm kind of curious to see what people think now. So leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Michelle Obama running. And just, if you really could, just share the show. Follow the show on Rumble. I'd really appreciate that too. I'm trying to build up a following on Rumble. I want to promote Rumble. I want Rumble to succeed, and I want YouTube to fail. I want to replace YouTube with Rumble because I want a platform that stands for free speech and the American people's First Amendment rights. So please, if you would, follow me on Rumble. And as always, I want you guys to have a good day. Have a great week. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. God bless you, and God bless America. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.